What's happening, everybody? Sorry for the delay. I realized in the video that I just did, my microphone was not working, and I went through that whole thing, and it didn't get any sound. So, uh, I didn't want to leave the whole beginning. I mean, I'm probably going to have to highlight the video and cut the beginning out of it. I didn't want to leave it the way that it was. I wanted to get back into this while it was fresh in my mind. So we're going to go back over like I wanted to, and we're going to talk about like I originally wanted to, and we're going to talk about the supports. I really hate it whenever this thing does this. Okay, there we go. Please bear with me. I am trying to make sure that this is. See, my bitrate is still too. It's saying that it's still too high, but I set it for what the settings said. Maybe I need to set it lower. I don't know, but we're gonna keep going with this. We're here, so, and if it's gonna do that every time I rotate, that's gonna get annoying really quick. Just stop it. Okay, so we're gonna go back into what I wanted to talk about originally, which is my support settings. I already have the supports on here. I wanted to zoom in here and show you. This is more supports than what I really would like on here. I probably would lower down the support density. Let's move over to the supports themselves. These supports, I don't typically. That's really big. I don't typically use this many supports. I try to thin it out, but it was already set to what I had done before. So let's. Oh, evil. Knock it off. All right. So these supports in here, whenever you're doing these, a lot of people have asked me how I go about putting my supports on my pieces. I don't like the STL file or the 3D image to be flat on the bed. Now, for any of you out there who don't know what I'm really talking about, let me zoom out here and show you. This is a 3D image of the bed. This is where all of your prints will appear, and this outer edge is the very limit of your printing capability. This solid piece right here, this is just a strap regulator that I threw in here as an example. This is what you want to worry about, like as far as your supports go. So whenever you're about to put, oh, that's going to be a pain. Whenever you're about to put your supports on, you want to rotate, and you do this by if you've never used JijiBox, you want to do this by double clicking, and it'll bring up your X, Y, and Z rotations. So this one obviously is not going to do you much good. This is Z, and these switch all the time. Typically, the green one is your Z axis. I mean, I don't see how this. Well, maybe it could be. I don't know. Anyways, I have found that they do flip around, but you want to tilt your piece. You don't want it to be laying flat because you will pull resin down on the bottom if you leave it flat, and you're gonna end up with this chunky, bumpy mess, which is really, really hard to clean up. So whenever you're adjusting all of your pieces, you want to make sure that if you have a flat edge, to angle it appropriately, and then you'll be ready to put on your supports. So right here, this is a skate. Now, I would call this a raft. I wouldn't necessarily call it a skate, but ChiChuBox has it as a skate. If you click none and then you add your supports on, it will come up with these little generic pieces. Actually, this works out perfectly. This piece right here is why I do not use these, because if this doesn't stick perfectly to the base, it will keep rising up and it'll get locked into your print. So I like to use what they're calling, like I said, the skate, because it gives you one solid surface for all of your supports to connect to, and a solid surface for connection to your bed. And then when you're adjusting for your supports, I use these right here, this light, medium, and heavy. I'll use that in determining, like, the bigger the model, obviously the heavier you're going to need to go. If it's going to be a heavy piece, then click heavy. I use best judgment whenever it comes to these three, but the main important parts that you want to worry about is the top of it, where you have your contact diameter, your contact depth, and then the upper diameter. So the upper diameter, if you hover over it, it'll show you exactly what it does. It's the piece that connects to the contact diameter, and that's just basically like a little bubble that you can sink into the unit, or yeah, into the unit, into the piece, or you can have it pulled away from it. Now your contact depth is where it will push it, in and out. Your diameter is how big the ball actually is. Now there's a way around removing these supports. I found that a lot of people like to use varied things to clean their prints. There are water soluble uh, resins out there. I've not tried them. I hear they're pretty good, but they can range for a good bit of money. Um, the normal resins, some people like to use isopropyl alcohol, and that's fine. It cleans fairly well. It dries fairly quickly, but you can still get pooling. Alcohol, if it pools up, it doesn't dry nearly as fast. What I actually use and what I found that works for me is 100% acetone, which is nail polish remover. Uh, this stuff is fantastic. It cleans super well, and I found if you leave it in for a little extra time, and there is a fine line on little extra time. If you have to test it out and be careful, don't do it on a piece that you really want. Do it on a test piece, but you'll find that these supports soften up real well, and you'll be able to just snap them right off, and they actually don't divot at all whenever you do it that way. But you have to watch because that can eat away some of your detail and cause you some problems with your print. So there is a very fine line there where it's good to leave it in and not good. So you can go too far really easily. I would highly suggest that you print up a few tiny pieces like this, something quick, easy, and test it out before you try it on a good piece. Another thing too is that your Z lift height, I find that you don't want it too low because the lower you get, the more it's going to pull, and you don't. That's what we're trying to fight against, is the pulling. Now it might take a little longer for it to print, but it's worth it if you get a better detailed print out of it. Another thing that I wanted to go over real quick, if you go into your settings, stop doing this to me, you jerk. Okay, so you go into your settings and your layer height. That will determine, and most printers, by the way, is 0.03 millimeter and 0.05 millimeter with the resin printers. That's the height of each layer. Now, if you go 0.03, you're getting as high detail as you can out of this. You don't necessarily want to go lower than that. I wouldn't recommend that you go lower than that. I'd say between the 0.03 and the 0.05 range, because 0.05 is good for, I would say, trying to get a print done fast and still look kind of good. Now, 0.03 is not going to get you a crazy amount of detail out of it. 0.03 is going to get you some sharpness, I would say. It's going to have cleaner lines, details are going to be better visible, that sort of thing. 0.05 is not going to look terrible, but it's going to look decent, and it's going to get it done quicker. If you have a high detailed piece, I would turn it down. It's worth the extra time to spend printing. You can leave it running while you're at work. I do. I've never had a problem. All of my stuff is on surge protectors. They also have surge protectors in the power cords, I believe. If you're that worried about them, you can always have a camera running on them that you can access 24/7. So if there's any problems, and if you're good at this stuff and you have it hooked up to a Wi-Fi system, you can cut the power, you can stop the prints. But resin printers don't really work with heat. I mean, they do get hot. It has electrical stuff in it, but they do get hot, but they don't. It's not like an FDM printer, a filament-driven machine. Those have a thermistor that if anything goes wrong and your temperature sensor is bad, it will ramp and keep ramping until it fries and literally can catch stuff on fire. So FDM printers, not as safe and secure. I've left my resin printers running all night long and not once had a problem. And I've done that for multiple printers. But I'm going to set that back to 0.05. Come on. Okay, there we go. So with that, I think that's the last bit, the last little bit of it. I don't think there was anything else that I wanted to mention. Orientation, got the thing here. Yeah, I think that's all. Real quick, not a long stream necessarily. I just wanted to clarify that because it didn't record as I said. Once again, I want to say a big thanks to Jennifer for supporting me on my Patreon. There's more room left. If you want to support me, that you can most certainly do it there. Benefits will be coming soon. I have all sorts of prints and painted pieces on my Facebook and Instagram. You can check me out there and hit the like button and give me some support. Appreciate it. Have a good one. Peace.